Hi there, welcome to our third video on the vetting model, and this time we're going to focus on resources. So within this presentation or the video, we're going to go through what are resources, which resource types are being used, what is abstraction, and how is it used within the model. So we've already introduced resources in the model under configuration resource types. So in this case we have 7 different types of resources, so different grades or roles, each which have the establishment as your FTE, a cost associated with the salary plus pension contribution and national insurance, a set of paid hours, and then one of the things we talked about was the fact these purple functioning hours would be calculated later on. So functioning hours are the paid hours, i.e. the 1930, less abstractions. And in this section we're going to talk a little bit about how we use abstractions and how we put abstractions into the model. So under the resources tab, into abstractions, I'm going to start with the officer. So the officer here has 13 different types of abstractions, some of which will be a vacancy factor, annual leave, public holidays. So annual leave and public holidays together make up the leave, but it's been specified out in a different manner. Sickness, maternity, paternity, secondments, training, so specialist and standard training, comfort breaks, so in-shift losses there, and then admin, briefings, etc. So within each of these we've got the loss description, the type it sits under. So for example, vacancy factor is one of the types that we previously specified, and then these yellow cells here. So if you want, before we go into how to change these, if you wanted to move from officer to you can use the left and right tabs to take you through to supervisor, manager, etc. Alternatively, select button, you have a pop-up, and then with that pop-up you can go. So I'm going to use the caseworker, and the caseworker here has 12 different types of abstraction. So what I'm going to start with is looking at these loss values. So just now we'll do two pieces. So one will be the annual leave. So annual leave has been specified as 207, hours, year, option 1. Now that's not particularly intuitive, but if we double click we see we have the abstraction box that pops up, and what it's saying here is that the loss value is 207 hours per year. Well, that makes sense. 207 hours per year, loss per year 207, and about 10.7% of the time. So a different way of doing this would be actually public holidays. So rather than specifying that as hours, it's specified as the number of shifts. So if I double click on here, we have the loss value, the unit of loss, so we're saying 8 shifts per year, the average shift length being 8 hours, and that's being applied to. Now we can either apply this to the annual paid time, or we can apply it to on-shift time. In this case, because we're talking about public holidays, we're talking about paid time, so I'll say OK for that, and you'll notice that is option 1. What we might also look at is team briefings. So team briefings they happen for 30 minutes every week, and the average week is 37 hours. Now, people only go to team meetings if they're in the office, therefore we're applying that only to the on-shift time. So that's going to come out as 21.53. However, if we'd made that annual time, 26. So you're going to get a different answer depending on what the option you choose. In this case, it makes sense that you're only going to go to team meetings if you're in the office. So apply to on-shift times. Just in terms of how that works as well, so if we double click loss values, double click on the yellow loss values, you can specify losses as minutes, hours, shifts, working weeks, or percentage, and then depending on the options that you pick, the frequency will come out and the loss options in here. If you ever get in a situation where you've picked one and you're not sure it's right, if hit reset, it will take you back to the beginning. So options around that. Once you've made any changes to this, save, and then you move on to the next one. What you'll also see is, for example, the admin is 26.3. So admin and caseworker should have caseworker 26.3 and admin also has 26.3. Now, if you wanted to replicate this so say admin had the same, you wanted to replicate those abstractions for one of the different grades, what you can do is say save as, and then specify what you wanted to save as, and then that would overwrite the numbers that are in the other sheets, and then save on there. So that gives you an option in terms of how to copy and paste across onto different sheets. So saving those, what you see in the top right hand corner, we've got 508 hours lost, or 26.3% off time. The next two sheets, we've got lost summary, which just gives a summary of the paid hours for a supervisor and each of the resource tags, the hours that are being lost, the available hours, and the percentage loss, i.e. your abstraction percentage. So be able to do those comparisons across the different grades to see, well, the supervisor has big losses, might want to go and investigate why that is. Officer, slightly higher percentage loss. The rest of the grades all stay about the same. Also look at those if you wanted to drill into that and really get an understanding of your abstractions. Loss by type, well, supervisor, you've got a graph here, table and a graph that just shows where the hours of abstraction come from. So the big thing for the supervisor is supporting other departments makes up 421 hours a year. So from that point of view, it's a significant part of their abstraction. The police officer breaks at 233 hours a year, because those breaks come off of 40 hours rather than 37, makes a difference in there. So you can actually see where the abstractions come from. So that's a very brief overview of the resources side of things. Once these numbers are being updated, what you can see is if you go back to configure resource types, these functioning hours within the resource types will also change, as will your cost per worked hour. So being aware of any changes you make here will filter through not only to the reports but also to the configuration sheet. Okay, so just final point from me. If you are looking for any assistance with the workload profiler for vetting and the vetting model, processevolution.co.uk, into support. And if you're on support, you can fill out a help desk ticket that we'll try and get back to within 24 hours. Thank you.